The fans have voted, the members have voted, and now the inductees have been announced, introducing the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class of 2025. That's next on Track by Track. Hey everybody, my name's Kyle, and this is Track by Track, music reviews, news, and commentary. Thanks for tuning in today, and if this is your first time here, please take a second to click subscribe so you won't miss future reviews and more. Well, here we go. The 2025 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees have finally been announced, and as always, there seems to be something for everyone. That is to say, something for everyone to love and something for everyone to hate. I'm about to run through all of this year's inductees, but before I do, let's recap the nominees from back in February. This year we had 14 nominees for the Illustrious Performer category, one less than last year. 8 of these acts were first-time nominees, with the other 6 being repeat offenders, 2 of which, Mariah Carey and Oasis, also appeared on last year's ballot. As it turns out, neither of them fared any better in 2025 than in 2024. All right, now that we've reviewed who was in the running, let's get to the winners. 7 of the nominated acts have been announced to be inducted into the Rock Hall in the Performer category, and they are Bad Company, Chubby Checker, Joe Cocker, Cyndi Lauper, Outkast, Soundgarden, and the White Stripes. All right, as I said, this is a fairly diverse mix of acts from both a genre and generational perspective. Not a lot of female representation, though, with Cyndi Lauper and Meg White being the only women being inducted in this category. But as we look into the other categories, we do see a little more female representation. Salt-N-Pepa took me completely by surprise as inductees in the musical influence category. I suppose I could have imagined them being nominated as performers at some point, but even then I would not have expected them to make the cut. So I have to say, this is one of the most surprising choices I've seen from the Rock Hall in a long time. The other female act being inducted is famed Wrecking Crew bassist Carol Kaye in the musical excellence category. As surprised as I was about Salt-N-Pepa, I'm just as thrilled by this induction. Carol's recognition here is very well deserved, so hats off to the Rock Hall on this great choice. Also being inducted in the musical excellence category are producer Tom Bell and legendary sessions pianist Nicky Hopkins. 2 more outstanding choices. The final non-performer category inductee I want to mention before digging back into the main category is, of course, Warren Zevon. He's being inducted in the musical influence category, and I'm sure is considered by many to be long overdue for the honor. He only received his first nomination in 2023 and shockingly didn't get inducted then. I'm thrilled to see the Rock Hall making amends in 2025. All right, moving on to the performer category. I have to say this is an exciting batch of inductees, refreshingly dominated by true rock and roll acts. 2 in particular are probably getting the most applause from this channel's viewers, and those are Soundgarden and Bad Company. Soundgarden was the most nominated act on this year's ballot, receiving their 3rd nomination this year, following prior noms in 2020 and 2023. After finally putting their legal struggles to rest and clearing the way for a truly celebratory occasion, I'm thrilled to see them finally welcomed into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Very well deserved. As is Bad Company, who shockingly received their first ever Rock Hall nomination on this year's ballot. But if I'm being honest, I'd actually rather have seen frontman Paul Rodgers inducted on his own, perhaps in the musical influence category. In addition to Badco, he's done great work with Free, Queen, and as a solo artist. I'm happy to see him get recognized here with Bad Company, though I predict that all but erases his chances of being inducted on his own in the future. I'm not sure if I'd say the same thing about Jack White. The White Stripes are being inducted this year on their 2nd nomination, a selection I remain unsupportive of. I've talked multiple times about how I don't feel the White Stripes as a band have earned this level of recognition. But I have also said that I think Jack White is very deserving of being inducted for his entire body of work, as a member of multiple bands, as a solo artist, and as a producer. I do think he still has a chance of being recognized in one of the other categories at some point in the future. But for now, I congratulate him and Meg on their induction as a band. 2 other long overdue inductions from the world of classic rock are Chubby Checker, and Joe Cocker. For both artists, 2025 was remarkably their first ever nominations, with Checker taking this year's crown for the longest wait. He's been eligible for nearly 40 years. That being said, his iconic song, The Twist, has already been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in their occasionally used singles category. So, to that end, Checker was kind of already in the Rock Hall. Personally, I'd have preferred to see him inducted in the early influence category, but he's more than deserving either way. Then there's Cyndi Lauper, receiving her induction with her second nomination to the Rock Hall. I have to say I was surprised to see her get in before Mariah Carey, and would honestly have preferred to see them both inducted this year. Nevertheless, I know she's been a popular choice among my viewers, so I'm sure many of you are very pleased with this result. Maybe not so much, though, for Outkast. Hip-hop acts are always polarizing choices when it comes to the Rock Hall, and what can I say about that I haven't said before? As part of the evolution of rock and roll, I have always supported rap and hip-hop acts being inducted into the Rock Hall. Many disagree, and I respect your opinions. As hip-hop acts go, I do think Outkast are a solid choice, although I'm not sure I would have picked them over several other rap acts. Seeing as how they were the only hip-hop act nominated this year, though, I'm not at all surprised they received the nod for induction. What I am surprised by, though, is seeing fan vote winner Phish not ending up being inducted in the class of 2025. I kind of thought Dave Matthews Band kicked down the door for modern jam bands, and that Phish would certainly make the cut with their first nomination this year. And as meaningless as the fan vote actually is in terms of how it impacts the ballots, it's hard to ignore the very solid, if not predictable, victory that the band had there. Like DMB before them, I do expect we'll see Phish inducted in the future. Still, I think it's kind of bad form not to induct the fan vote winner by default. Looking at the rest of the fan vote results, it is no surprise at all to see Mana at the bottom, just as I predicted. But I really did think Oasis would fare much better than second to last. Billy Idol received a stronger level of support than I expected, making another nomination for him in the future highly likely. And as much as Joy Division and New Order are personal favorites, I'm in no way surprised by their middling performance in the fan vote and a second snub on induction. All right, well, let me wrap things up by once again expressing my bottom line opinion about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a whole, which is that ultimately nominations and inductions are based on an imperfect system. There's no shortage of music fans that absolutely despise it as an institution, not to mention a number of artists as well. In most cases, I tend to agree that the acts inducted are worthy of recognition. Some much more or much less than others. But it is undeniable that there are many, many more that are also worthy but continue to be overlooked. But ultimately for me, and you've probably heard me say this multiple times before, I just don't take the Rock Hall all that seriously. I fully admit that I always enjoy the annual debate over the nominees, the inductees, and of course the SNUBS. But the key word there is enjoy, because that's the whole point of music, isn't it? And regardless of who gets in, I always look forward to watching the ceremony itself, which always guarantees at least a few great one-of-a-kind performances. This year, the ceremony will be held in Los Angeles on November 8th, with a live stream on Disney Plus and on-demand viewing on Hulu as well. It should be a night to remember, regardless of where you stand in the annual debate over who's in and who's been snubbed. But as always, I welcome your comments on the subject. Do you agree with this year's winners? How do you feel about the extra categories? Who do you think is the biggest snub? And is there anyone in the class of 2025 that you think hasn't earned their spot? Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Once again, my name is Kyle, and this has been Track by Track. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Plus, be sure to check out some of these other videos below that I think you might also enjoy. And of course, be sure to click subscribe, because true music fans always want new releases the day they come out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.